Nintendo's quarterly financial reports. They really are just a lovely thing. I love them. You know, like Nintendo Directs. That's like the Christmas that we get a few times a year. You know, if we're lucky, we'll get like 3 a year. The quarterly reports, of course, they're not quite as exciting. We don't get big game reveals or anything. But if you're interested in the numbers, sales numbers like I am, it's so much fun. You know, if we're lucky, a particularly spicy quarter, we'll even get like a shake up in the top 10 or something. Hasn't happened as much in recent years, but that's always fun. But then they'll talk to the investors, they'll drop little bits of info, they'll give us like infographics. It's all a great time. And one thing this time that Furukawa and Nintendo wanted to communicate to the investors and to the world at large. Of course, it's fairly obvious. We've all observed this ourselves, but I think it's really cool that Nintendo wanted to communicate this. They shared this little infographic. I I hesitate to call it a graph because a graph is supposed to be kind of a mathematical visualization of various data, and as far as accuracy and really conveying numbers goes, this graph it's a little nonsense. It's kind of like social media political shared around by your parents kind of style graph, where it does not actually communicate these numbers in the way that it looks like it's trying to. You know, the graph it's split up between these 4 series: Pikmin, Kirby, Metroid, and Xenoblade Chronicles. And then, like on the left, you've got sales for the series between the Wii U and 3DS titles. And then on the right, you've got Switch. But of course, like, there's so many variables in here that make this not really make that much sense. The titles that were released on these were completely different. They released under different circumstances. They released on systems with very different install bases. And so obviously, like, you can't really look at it. You can't take it at face value. You know, for example, the Wii U and the 3DS, well, it only had that collection of systems, only had one Pikmin game, and it was Pikmin 3. Sold, so 1.78 million. But then on the Switch, you have Pikmin 3 Deluxe and Pikmin 4 and Pikmin 1 and 2 HD. So, like, yeah, it doesn't really work. But that doesn't really matter, because ultimately what this is simply Nintendo trying to communicate how well these series are doing on Switch. And I think that's very, very cool, because obviously, like, we all are rooting for these more niche series. It's almost funny to see Kirby on the list, because the way that Nintendo prioritizes Kirby and gives Kirby so many games, you almost think like, what are you talking about? Kirby's not niche. But it's true. Like, before the Switch, Kirby games, they came out consistently and they sold consistently, but not super high. Really not particularly high at all. High enough to make them money, but really not great compared to, Mario or whatever. But yeah, I mean, Kirby absolutely does belong on this list, because out of these 4 series, it probably has seen the most growth, at least like per major title. Kirby games have sold really, really well on the Switch. But then, yeah, like, of course, you look at all of these, we know that, like, Pikmin 4 sold like 3 million or somewhere around there. Metroid Dread sold around 3 million or something like that. Xenoblade Chronicles, they've sold not super high, but consistently enough. And sure, there's like that little part of me that wanted to see more for some of this stuff, wanted to see Pikmin 4 sell a little bit more, maybe get at least a little closer to some of those other real juicy tentpole IPs, Metroid, yeah, okay. It would have been nice if Metroid Dread sold more with such a big install base. Yes, seeing only about 1 million in sales for Metroid Prime Remastered, very, I'd say particularly disappointing, considering they basically remade all the assets and it looks so good, and they sold it for only $40. It's such a good game. Whatever though, let's not look at the negative. Overall, Nintendo is happy with how these games are selling, and they're happy with how these series are growing. Because they are growing. All 4 of these series have seen really, really great growth and good sales on Switch. Even if not like crazy, still really good. And like over the years, you know, we've gone through these long periods where Nintendo would just not release a game in whatever. I mean, I guess with these 4 titles, mainly you're looking at Pikmin and Metroid. Pikmin 4 got just delayed until the point where like we just had absolutely no idea if and when it was coming out. And then Metroid would go through these long dry spells where we're genuinely wondering, like, does Nintendo even care about Metroid anymore? Do they have any faith in it as an IP? Obviously they care. You know, they care about all of their classic IPs. They're always going to be a part of their DNA, of their identity, but like, do they have enough faith in it to make new games? Are they, you know, confident enough that they will sell enough? So it's great to see that all these games, all these series here have seen good sales. But then, I don't know, I just really love that Nintendo did this. I love that Nintendo made a point to showcase these series and their sales and to show everybody, look, these series have all seen really great growth during the Switch generation. You know, we don't have to worry, oh, does Nintendo care? Does Nintendo have faith or whatever? Like, they do. They had faith enough in all these series to keep developing games for them. And this communicates to me that they're happy with how things have gone. You know, they're not like, oh, Metroid Dread, it didn't sell quite enough. Let's put the series on ice for another 19 years or whatever. You know, like, no. They're happy. Whatever these numbers here, whatever these graphs represent, it seems that Nintendo is happy with them. And that feels great. It really just feels great to have this confirmation that Nintendo is proudly parading these 4 IPs to everybody and being like, look at this. Look at this. Look at that red bar. Look how many copies these series have sold on Switch. They're proud of it. They're happy about it. And, you know, obviously, this doesn't mean anything directly. This doesn't necessarily guarantee that these games are going to keep getting releases or whatever. I mean, we know that it's likely. Xenoblade is always going to get new games. Kirby's always going to get new games. You know, Pikmin is Miyamoto's special little baby, so they're probably always going to get new games. And they were even talking about how they're hoping we don't have to wait as long for Pikmin 5, and that's great. And then with Metroid, you know, we don't know what the future looks like, but if Metroid Dread sold good, it sold pretty darn good, they're hopefully and probably making another one right now. And of course, Metroid Prime 4 is coming next year. So sure, we already know that most of these things are probably going to get more games, but I love the suggestion here. I love the confidence. It makes me feel more confident than ever that these series are going to continue to get games, even if we don't know quite at what pace in every case. We don't know exactly, you know, we're not necessarily going to see a new mainline game in each of these series every 3 or 4 years, no matter what, guaranteed, except for Xenoblade. That's a guarantee. But we can be confident enough that they're going to keep coming. We can. Otherwise, why would Nintendo do this? Why would Nintendo brag about how these series have grown? And that, I mean, it feels great, especially in the case of Metroid, obviously, because, yeah, it just felt like dead. Felt like absolute dead in the water for a long time. You know, after Other M and Federation Force, we just were like, all right, we don't know what's going to happen to the Metroid series. Pretty much all the way up until Samus Returns. We just didn't know. But like now, the Switch has done so well, and we are in an era of renewed confidence for these more quote-unquote niche IPs from Nintendo, you know, and all these series have a lot of fans, and they're really, really special to a lot of people, and so that just feels great. It feels really, really great. I forgot about Hey Pikmin. I was talking about how Pikmin 3 was the only thing on Wii U 3DS. Okay, yeah. I forgot about Hey Pikmin. I don't think that sold very well, though. I don't think that makes up very much of that bar there. Also, while we're looking at these individual numbers, looking at Metroid, if Wii U and 3DS so basically a million Metroid units of Metroid games between the Wii U and 3DS, I do have to wonder how that breakdown is, because I think people were estimating Samus Returns sold like 500,000, which is really not good. It's really not good at all. And then beyond that, it was like Metroid Prime Trilogy on Wii U, and then Federation Force, and we know Federation Force didn't sell well at all. Really not well at all. Not even quite cracking 1 million between those 3 titles. That is a bummer, but wow, I wish Nintendo would give more detailed information. But anything under 1 million is usually, they don't tend to report very detailed stuff on it. But yeah, 1 million units between those 3 games. I would really, really love to see how that all breaks down. I really want to know how Samus Returns did. I have to imagine most of those sales, most of that 1 million is Samus Returns. But yeah, I don't know. Remaster the darn thing, Nintendo. Come on. It'll at least crack 1 million. I guarantee you.